I'd like to call the August 23rd, 2022 open session meeting of the Air Planning Board to order. We have an agenda in front of us, and do I have to do discussion first, or do I need the motion?
Move to approve the agenda.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. It's unanimous. There are no covenant bond releases, so I believe the first topic for discussion are Woodland Way and Hemlock Drive, and I believe I have a representative right here.
Yes.
Come on up and introduce yourself, and let's talk.
Hi, my name is Miko Lasala, and I'm from S. Chamberlain Engineering. And we had petitioned, the applicants had petitioned the Board of Selectmen to be added onto the fall warrant for street acceptance. And then this is part of that process where then they petition the planning board for comments and review. And we forwarded our as-built plans to the town, to the DPW for their review, and they have a punch list of items that
That's right.
they clean up and that we're working on addressing.
So,
Does someone have a copy of the last one?
I have it right here.
Yes, yes, I have. You
So-
could borrow mine.
Thanks.
Oh,
my
sorry.
question is, and forgive my ignorance, some of these are simple, but some of them, like the drainage structures are India-made, developer shall coordinate replacement or warranty. That could potentially be a lot of work, and I was wondering, do you imagine this punch list will be completed in advance of the town meeting?
As far as the warranty from the manufacturer, I mean, just that it meets up to the specs of, I don't think that would be
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
unusual.
Sorry,
Yeah, please, Dan, go.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Skolkwick or from DPW. So
Yeah.
could you explain that one for me a little bit?
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair, so some of the drainage castings installed out there are made in India and
Yeah, we saw
are
them.
made in the North America. So instead of replacing them, I need to work with Duke Pointer, the developer, to come up with some kind of warranty.
Okay.
You know, if after so many years they break, then he has to either give us some money or replace some of them, something along those lines to kind of cover us. So I'd rather not go through and replace all of them after we've already done the final paving and everything like
It
that.
would be ugly,
That's-
yes.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I said probably it's more likely the warranty for that very reason. It's more
Yeah.
damage than.
And it was something that got missed by us, DPW, under inspection, and by during construction by the developer too. So the other structures, though, for water and sewer are North American made. So.
So Dan, I'm going to open up in a minute. But so Dan, you're on top of this to see that the punch list is being completed, or
Yeah. So typically when we've done street acceptances, that's what we do. We go through this process. The first step is the developer, the applicant submits to the select board
Right.
to vote their intention to lay out the street according to the meets and bounds plans. Then they create the punch list and an as-built, send it to DPW, and we go through that and we double check. We've been doing inspections the whole time. Everything's being built to the right standards and specs. But then we'll find a few things here or there that need to be addressed as a final punch list. And so then, we stay on top of that. Typically what we've done is I write a letter to the planning board,
Okay.
which I did, and I indicate in that that I recommend either they continue with the process, that your recommendation to the select board is they continue with the street acceptance process. In kind of a caveat is the punch list needs to be completed by town meeting.
Good.
And if it's not completed by town meeting, then on town meeting floor, I would stand up and recommend that article be tabled or withdrawn.
Until things are
the
rectified.
next town meeting, whenever things are rectified.
And
I'm sorry,
there's
Mark, you
also-
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna ask him, Dan, you just give an overview of the street acceptance process.
Yeah.
And I understand there are deadlines and sort of procedures that the planning board must follow in getting that to the select board.
Right.
Within so many
There's
days.
a time limit, so
And
there's a
so many
legal structure.
weeks before the town meeting and all this sort of thing.
Right, so and after this, the next step is there'll be notice, or no, then there would be notices sent out, I believe, to the owners that are along the ways, Woodland Way and Hemlock, who would be impacted by the town taking over acceptance. There'll be a notice sent to them that at the next select board meeting, the select board's gonna vote its intention to lay out the streets according to the meets and bounds plans. Select board has that vote, at their next meeting, assuming that goes fine, it usually does. Then from there, you go to the town meeting vote in October, the fall town meeting. So
Excellent.
in short, that's the process.
Thank you. Jeff, it looks like you have something to say?
I actually have two questions through you, Mr. Chair. The first question is, would the DPW want the planning board to actually, would it be helpful in the process? And I don't know, but if you can't come up with a reasonable process for the non-North American made castings, would it be appropriate for the planning board to have the developer put aside some money for future use?
Yeah, that might be an option.
A covenant or
Yeah,
something
so-
like that.
That's what I was
Okay,
wondering, too.
That's
Yeah.
one question. And of
That-
course, we turn to you at the DPW to find out what the cost would be and.
In fact, that's what I thought the warranty was, a little bit of
Yeah.
money set aside just in case they fail.
Yeah.
But by a certain time.
I just thought we might get this on the table while you're here so we can talk about it. That's
And
number
a
one.
Would you
portion
be
of the bond,
amenable?
there's already a bond.
Yeah.
So I mean, instead of releasing the entire bond,
Yes.
Keep a portion.
I see what you're
That might be
It-
easiest,
It-
yeah.
It's terrible to make the treasurer do the work, but it probably might make everybody happy at the end of the day.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's one. The other thing, Mr. Chair, if
Yes,
I
sir.
may, is on Friday, September 30th, this is an important date, the deadline for the warrant articles to the select board and all citizens petitions need to be to the town clerk. So it's by 1 p.m. on Friday, September 30th. That's your deadline to get the warrant article in.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I kind of switched hats on you there for a moment.
No, that's
But
important.
Mr. Pompion just sent this out to us over the weekend, so I thought I'd share it with you.
Nope, that's important information.
And, I'm sorry,
No, that's all. Thank you.
through you, Mr. Chair, generally, the DPW has kind of continued made the process sort of happen, been administrative. We send in that warrant article
Okay.
I just
request.
put it on your schedule so you know what's coming
Yeah,
up.
remind me.
Okay, yeah, no,
I'll get it on my.
I mean, I printed this out at home and forgot it. I had to ask the clerk to give me a copy of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
no, I appreciate that. I knew that there was a deadline coming up.
It was set at the last select board meeting,
Okay.
and they only meet once in August, so they won't discuss it again for another 2 or 3 weeks.
And it'll put us
Yeah.
behind the eight ball if we don't know.
Yeah.
Ken, did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I got a couple minutes. Got anything? Dan, you're preparing the punch list now. Is that the way we understand it? The punch list is not complete.
This is the punch list, in the
So
letter
we
I
have the
sent
punch
to,
list.
Yes.
yeah, so we have the punch list.
It was actually with the letter that was sent to us.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
thanks. That's good.
included it in the, so it is, yeah.
So, in the thought that the applicant will be completing the punch list, but in the event they don't get the punch list completed by the date required to get the article, you'll still put the article on, and then
Correct.
anticipate that they've got all the way up to town meeting to get it done. And then at
Correct.
the last minute, if it doesn't get done, we just pull the article at town meeting, we delay it.
Correct.
Correct.
But the completion of the punch list is not tied into the deadline for the town meeting, is what I'm getting at.
That's correct.
Okay,
I understand.
everyone understands that?
But it looks
Yeah.
like the general thing is that it's likely to be done? Is that the sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't see the things that are on the punch list are out of the ordinary that they can, I think they've already been in
Yeah.
touch with you.
I'm meeting with
One of them
them
was putting out
this
the
week.
the bounds.
Yeah, the
right?
bounds, and those are,
That's a little tricky.
No, those are already actually
You
in.
just have to uncover them.
Yeah.
Just go out there with a shovel pretty much and just
Make sure
scrape
that-
out.
okay.
Because
Yeah,
those
make
have been
sure they're
set
there.
already, so it's just a matter of just
All right.
him
Yeah.
witnessing that they're there.
I agree, I don't really foresee an issue with this being completed
Okay.
as
Okay,
well.
great.
Yeah.
Thanks for the list. I had a couple of other things. So, these roads, you've been, first of all, are you the engineer of record on the design?
The original record,
Yes.
not the original,
Right,
no.
it was Ross Associates, wasn't it?
Well, it started with Ross Associates, went to S.J. Mulaney.
Okay,
S.J. Mulaney modified
okay.
this aspect of it.
But you're responsible now. We don't have to go back to the original engineer for anything.
No, it's, no.
Okay.
Because we did the original goes back to the preliminary 97, 2004. We modified per stormwater standards that came into effect, and we've been involved with it since.
Okay, so it's where Mulaney is good for the record keeping.
And
When
it's
did-
all, and all, just to give you kind of a backstory, all the same, the surveyor that's involved with it, we've all worked together for 25 years, so we're all the same people.
But you just started other companies.
The different companies have merged over time, so.
Okay, good. Does the fire department get involved with any testing when we have a project like this for pressure? This is a long road up there. Do you do any hydrant pressure testing at the top of the road to make sure that the fire suppression system, the pressure that's supposed to be available for fire protection is in fact good to go? Is that part of the process for accepting a road? If it isn't, I think it should be looked at.
I don't think we.
Well, I'm thinking when the water tower was installed.
Yeah, we probably did one when the water tower was put in.
Because that's
I could
online.
look back at that.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's
we probably have something up
That
there.
water tower was
Yeah.
needed for earlier phases. There was other parts of the project that required that to be functional.
Right.
So that tower is functional now?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does it make any sense to have them do a test just to make sure we have the right, the furthest point, highest point, whatever it is? Because it's a long way up.
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, I think first I should check my records. I'm sure we probably did some testing. in
Yeah,
the
we had a
area
few
when we
lots
put
in the
that
middle
in.
that needed the elevation. But like on the Woodland Way side, I don't recall we had any issues with pressure.
Yeah.
Just a thought, but I think it might be important for us as a group to understand that when we talk about these things, at the end of the day, we know it works.
Right.
You know, because we're going to have similar situations. I was intrigued by your letter and the fact that the letter indicated that an as-built plan was required, and you listed the section that requires the as-built plan, and that's in the old subdivision regulations, which we have actually updated, so that was correct what you did. But what's fascinating to me is I went through the new regulations. I can't find that requirement in the new regulations, so I'm reaching out to Mr. Ashenbo
Okay, show it to me and we
to
will
double
have to,
check that we have in fact that as-built requirement. Now, it may be in fact that we write a decision,
Yeah.
and then the decision will require the as-bills, which we can do, I guess.
Right.
But it's
I would think
fascinating
that
that
meets
the
some-
old subdivision
yeah.
regulation does in
Of
fact
national
have it
law
in
probably
quotes,
dictates-
as-bills.
Yeah,
If
it's
I may,
questionable.
Mr. Chair, I do believe, and we had discussed this, that there's a requirement for as-built in there. I'm curious if it's everywhere it needs to be. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Okay?
We'll
I'm not
check
gonna argue
that.
that they're not there, but I find it interesting that you didn't find them. Of course, the first place we looked, they're not there, but that's,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
it's not, that's called Diskin's
I-
Law, by the way,
I
not
read the
Murphy's Law.
letter, and
Yeah.
I was fascinated by
I
the
read the letter too,
preciseness
yeah.
of the letter and referring to the section. Took out my copy of the old subdivision regulations, found it to be exactly what he said, the engineer.
Yeah.
Couldn't find it in the new one, so could you do me a favor and double check that?
Oh, absolutely.
But he's still under the.
He's fine.
But we're
It's
still
great.
fine.
under
Yeah,
the
yeah,
old.
yeah.
But I'm just pointing it
Locked
out
in
as
under
general
old
for.
regs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's for the general
Yeah.
public who might watch this meeting.
Yeah.
And stop us in the supermarket and say, you let the guy go.
Oh,
It's
sure
like,
you
no,
will.
that's not what
If it's
happened.
not there, it will be there.
It happens, by the
I-
way.
Absolutely.
I know we've talked about it many times in many
Small
projects,
town.
but
Yeah, I
it's
know, that would
fascinating.
be a big oversight.
It's
if we
quoted
didn't.
in the old regs. So anyway, I think it's a good idea to follow up on the
Yeah.
catch basin covers, the India manufactured covers, and just whole part of the bond, you know, when they come for the final bond. My last question is, this is in fact the very final phase of the whole project. So when this gets done, we've approved all the streets and
Correct.
everything is done, right?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ken. Any
May I-
further
may I
comments?
ask, just a general question. Neither one of you may know the answer to this, but I moved to town about 10 years ago, 9 or 10 years ago, and the tower has always been there. Has the town actually accepted the tower? Is there a process by which, because I know the tower was built with the project.
Right.
You may not have to answer now, I don't know. But if we're gonna tie the whole thing up in a bow, we should probably find out, make sure that, you know.
That's on
I
a,
thought the land was on open space at the time.
that's open space to the town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay,
Yeah, that's what it
so then it should be okay. I'm just double checking.
Yeah, that's the remaining parcels that are open space.
Because we've had to deal with things in the last 2 years where it just never got finished, never went to record. And we have to write letters to the registry.
I think when you click on that, you find out that it pops
Yeah.
up town of Ayer.
The water tower?
It may actually, just curious.
Yeah, or if it's been updated.
If you're tying,
Yeah.
if you're putting a bow around it, let's put the bow around it.
Let me-
is. Right. We
Oh,
can
here
make
we go.
sure of that, and then if not, it can be part of the. acceptance, I think.
It's still listed.
It says
It
owner
says-
Ayer community, but it still lists Ridgeview.
The Realty
Yeah.
Trust.
Realtor. And we do not, by the way, this is not an official record,
Yeah.
I know.
Right.
so it's real easy. I didn't do the title work when I looked at it earlier.
That's a good point. Should be in the town. If it's open space.
And Mark, what's required? Do we need a finding for the select board?
Yeah, well,
Recommend?
the board should make a motion. I don't know if you want to amend the motion to reflect some of the discussion about the punch list items, but usually the motion would be, the planning board makes a motion to accept the layout of Woodland Way and Hemlock Drive from Woodland Way to its end as town ways. And then that would be, I would write up a little blurb about that, and it would be submitted to the select board.
Is there a way to phrase the motion so we get, pending, of course, completion of the...
Yeah, we could say,
engineers.
the planning board recommends acceptance, and then what I just said,
Excellent.
pending, you could have the pending language, so.
Oh,
Well, this is from the letter, most of the motion could be, planning board recommends this, and then pending,
Okay.
and then.
To the acceptance
Can
of,
the chair make
yeah.
a motion?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I'll make the motion then because it's complicated. I have the document in front of me. I'd like to make a motion that, do I say find or that we accept?
I don't think it matters. Accept-
Motion to recommend the acceptance of.
We make a motion to recommend the acceptance of the layout of Woodland Way and Hemlock Drive from Woodland Way to its end as townways, pending, of course, the successful completion of the punch list prepared by the Department of Public Works.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, discussion first. I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's okay.
Discussion? I'm sorry, Nathan, go ahead.
Just for clarity, Hemlock all the way to the cul-de-sac, right?
Yes, from the
Yeah.
intersection,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Here to there, and then all this, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Because the other portion has already been accepted.
Ken and I went on a road trip just Thursday just to take a look, and it looked very neat and clean. It looked good. I mean, we found the things that we saw with Dan's comments, but yeah, it looked good.
So
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Now we'll have the vote. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It's unanimous.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
Boy, those streets would look so good with bike paths on them.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'll put this
Well, we
on.
would have to have wider pavement to make that work.
Put it on.
Yeah, well,
Thank you,
Put this on
Dan,
my-
for coming
Yeah,
out.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Another
Nice
fun
meeting
show,
you.
right?
Mika.
Mika, it was good meeting you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Alan, if you'd like to join us. And at our last meeting, Alan presented us with a proposal for some changes to the West Air Village form-based code. And public hearings will be forthcoming, but given that we have a little bit of a lull right now, I think the idea is that today would be an optimal time for us to go in depth and really get in it with Alan about the specifications. And my thinking is, I think we have a mutual desire to minimize the number of trips to town meeting as we can. So if we're looking at it, I think we want to look carefully, is like all the changes that we want, are these changes make sense, et cetera, et cetera. And to give Alan any kind of feedback or even pushback about the specs if we think that there's something that should be changed or altered. So, Alan, before we begin our discussion, is there anything you want to add to your comments in the last, to the comments you made the last time you were before us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Okay. Oh boy, my eyesight has gotten so bad. Alan's getting old. I can't even see it. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have just distributed just an updated sheet, maybe a little bit more clear about the items that we are proposing for amendment with regard to the West Air Village form-based code. When I was here with you all last time, a number of the members, raised a couple of items for discussion, clarification, and such. And maybe I'll just, having the benefit of just doing some quick research, just some general stuff. And I'll just say, reading from the Ayer zoning bylaw, I know the planning board, and we talked about your discretionary authority as we're looking at these amendments and, proposed developments. And I just found, they're just great excerpts when you dig into it. 3.5.4, decision. And just citing for when, you are to approve a site plan. The planning board shall approve a site plan if it determines that. That goes through some items. Number 2 is, given the location, type, and extent of the land use proposed by the applicant, the design of the building form. Cited specifically, building location, egress points, grading, and all elements could not be reasonably altered. 2, and you go down, say, item D, improve access to each structure for fire and other emergency service equipment. Commissioner Tillotson raised the issue of, Alan, will these new buildings, have enough adequate space behind for fire apparatus, public safety? There it is right there. You have the discretionary authority. Item D, of course, under 3.5.4, to assure that. Item F, under that same section, to improve building design or scale or site design to strengthen compatibility with surrounding properties. This is your discretionary authority that is embedded throughout, this code. 9.1.2, off-street parking requirements. Again, Member Tillotson brought up an issue saying, Alan, you do understand these are mixed-use properties, and we have to understand with regard to the parking requirements. And we said, so just to reinforce that, yes, and it's very clearly written here, for mixed uses, this is item D, mixed uses under 9.1.2, off-street parking requirements for a building with 2 or more principal uses that fall into different classes of uses, i.e. uses with different parking requirements occupying the same building or premises. The parking spaces required, and here it is, shall equal the sum of the requirements of the various uses computed separately, except where it can be demonstrated to the planning board that the parking need for the uses occurs at different times, in which cases the planning board may grant a special permit to reduce the number of parking spaces. So yes, Jeff, as you brought up, when we do that calculation, whatever we determine the residential minimum parking requirement, that then has to be added to the required spaces for the business uses. Whether it's a restaurant, it's X number of parking spaces per seat, are those formulaic things. So yes, that's it. But again, it shows you the incredible discretionary authority the planning board has when you read these sections, these little final sentences which seem not, but they are, when you look at it, oh my goodness, we can alter that. Most powerfully, section 9.1.10, modifications and waivers. Item A, the planning board may approve modifications or waivers of the requirements of this section, 9.1, the entire section, which is parking, for compelling reasons of safety, aesthetics, site design, or environmental impact. In particular, item C, parking space requirements may be modified when one of the more following conditions are met to the satisfaction of the planning board. Okay? And particularly item 3. And this gets to the point of Commissioner King, who brought up, Alan, are there more creative ways, incentive-based ways, with terms of parking? And right here in number 3, I don't think haven't looked this seriously, and under 9.1.10, a parking management plan approved by the planning board is implemented with occupancy of the building or buildings. Said plan shall include the implementation of such measures as car and van pooling, bicycling, public transit use sufficient to reduce the need for parking. The planning board may require periodic documentation of reductions in vehicle trips, parking utilization as a result of the parking management plan. So with a prospective development, if it is, you literally, aside from amending, so you have right now the discretionary authority to reduce the parking requirements based on an overall parking management plan. In the case of West Main Street, where we are developing bicycle lanes, the shuttle bus stops, the walkable infrastructure, all that, this is what we've done. 9.3, commercial development standards. We had a discussion, I know Commissioner Diskin was very concerned about, do we have the authority in terms of the building fenestration and breaking up that building? And really, digging deep into, do we really, have the discretion to do that? 9.3, commercial development standards. Item A, appearance, architectural design standards. Item 2, architectural design shall be compatible with the character and scale of the buildings in the town through the use of appropriate building materials, screenings, and most importantly, breaks in roof and wall lines and other architectural techniques. Variation in detail, form, and siting shall be used to provide visual interest and avoid monotony. Proposed buildings shall be used to provide, shall relate harmoniously with each other. Adequate light air separation. And boldface, the planning board may take into consideration whether exterior building facades and materials are consistent with Ayer's character. You have this discretionary authority with all site plans. If someone comes in and shows you a large monolithically, you have the authority to say, you are to go back, finish to break up that building facade and do it. Regardless of what we do with the amendment, you have the authority now to do this.
I'm a little confused.
Just a quick question.
Yeah, you go first.
Alan's
But do you mind,
making,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Keep going now.
Alan's making some valid points to give us an answer to the questions we brought up the last time, which were, he made a statement the last time that we had discretionary authority. The statement lacked backup. Now he's given us the backup, showing us where the discretionary authority occurs in the bylaw. So I just have a quick question. So you just quoted 9.3 commercial development, but typically we're not talking about commercial development on West Main Street. We're talking about this mixed-use development. Commercial development, the way I see it, is business development, office parks, industrial building. Doesn't have a residential component.
These are not purely residential buildings, though. They're mixed use. They're commercial buildings. They're the street level, of completely commercial operations.
So
It is a commercial building because it's generating, it's accommodating commercial businesses.
Okay.
It's designed to do so.
So that's a good clarification.
And this corridor is not being built as a single-use residential corridor. It's being designed to function as a mixed-use corridor with business enterprise specifically. Yes. And I'll just finish up here under Town of Air site plan regulations, which is not the zoning, now your own planning board, for criteria for approval. And, really great criteria, but one of them, again, item 2, given the location, type, and extent of land use proposed by the applicant, the design of building form, I mean, it's right there, you actually have building form, basically. Building form, building location, egress points can be altered, again. And to approve access to each structure, for fire and other emergency services, which Jeff brought up. And then F, improve building design or scale or site design to strengthen compatibility with surrounding properties, and on. There's even a section further down in one of your own planning board regulations, item B, building structures and appurtenances. And again, it has to contribute to the overall aesthetic harmony and visual impact of the surrounding area. You have the authority now to do all this in terms of the breaking up of the building. So it all goes back to this thing of if we're going to go to 4 stories, if we are going to, permit the larger lot widths, they cannot then go and build buildings that are simply incompatible with it. And you have that authority right now. When the architects say, go back, make it more, and then of course you'll have to qualify and say, well what is harmonious? And that's why we have the form-based code now, and we have, in the form-based code, there are actual visual components of buildings here we've guided them, as well as building frontage types. So it's not this guessing game. It's like, You can visually look at it in the code. There's no mystery of what we're talking about. Please go back and do it. Stop, you can say to them, you don't need to waste time and money with this. Listen to what we're telling you we want, and this is delivered, which I think most will do anyway, but I think those are some of your safeguards in terms of the authority you are already empowered with. So that's in terms of, the building height and the lot width. I'll just say quickly, if you look at the second page of what I just gave you here, with regard to the proposed parking amendment to reduce it to one space for all units in the West Ayer Village form-based code. Here is my take. Maybe what we do, the approach is, and I'm just trying to find the simplest way to embed this now in the code. We simply go to our off-street parking requirements section 9.1.2. Item number 2 is in fact multifamily dwellings. Right now, it simply states, starting off there, minimum one space per studio unit, and this is town-wide. Okay? So that's fine. But then we simply insert or add in multifamily dwelling located in West Ayer Village Form-Based Code District T.5, T5, T.5.1, simply stating it, minimum one space per studio unit, one space per one bedroom unit, one space per unit with 2 or more bedrooms. And that is the amendment.
And then,
submitted.
because it is a mixed use,
Yes.
plus.
That's
the
right
parking is
then.
required for the
Right, but we're
commercial.
just talking here about the residential parking. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, the commercial stay exactly as they are. They stay exactly as they are. Townwide.
So what I want to ask my colleagues is, and you're reflecting over this in the last couple of weeks and looking at the documents and listening to Alan now, are there any sticking points for you? Anything here that, that would inhibit you from supporting this? Is there anything that you really feel is unresolved or needs further discussion or research or analysis? No? Jeff? You had a
Silence
meaningful
is
look at the
deafening.
face.
It was an interesting question.
Well, it's an interesting
Way to
question.
phrase it.
It's an extraordinary, Mr. Chair.
I wouldn't
it's an
even know how to answer that.
It's an extraordinarily broad question if
Oh,
you
I'm
listen to
sorry.
it. That's quite all right.
No,
What
but
I'm
it's.
getting at is.
But let
Okay,
me
go ahead.
let me take a stab at it,
All right.
okay? So a couple things jump to mind, and I may be stepping on someone else's pitch here, but they can discuss it also. I don't know where my mind is at this. I haven't made it up. We're talking about what looks on paper to be, and Alan, take no offense at this, relatively monolithic structures, given what we currently have.
That's,
And-
can I
and-
reflect on that for a moment? Because it's related to it? Or-
Yeah. Okay.
That's exactly what I was thinking. We're talking about harmony and consistency.
Yeah.
We're talking about a building type we don't have here. I mean, it's.
However, if I
right,
may,
so it's a little different.
if I may,
Go ahead.
if I continue west
Yeah.
on West Main Street
Sure.
and leave our community, it is not unreasonable to find buildings of a similar size, not directly on the road, but of similar monolithic size. And there's a number of them. So I don't think that it's necessarily, like I said, I'm not of a clear mind on this one yet. Number one, okay, 1, 2. I actually would word it. Thank you for rewording the parking. One parking space per residential unit, regardless of number of bedrooms. What if they put in a townhouse that has 3 bedrooms? I know you've got 2 or more. It just gets crazy. But that's one. But that's okay. It's nice to know that we have discretion, as Mr. Manoyan has pointed out. I don't want us to become, if I may use the expression, fashion police. We're not going to
Exactly.
design it for people. So that's actually a minefield I hope I never find myself in.
Could I make a comment on
Well,
that?
I would like to comment
Okay,
first, and
yes,
I'll let you,
yes.
Alan. And
So,
that's a concern
that's
I
right.
share with Jeff,
That's right.
is that,
That's where I am.
when the language like harmony, consistency, air standards, and I go, towns and environments are dynamic things, not fixed things. They're things that change. And in fact, what we know from strong towns is, of course, anything allows for reasonable change is actually a good thing because it can accommodate economy, politics, environment. And I'm just, so I guess what I'm saying is when I look at things, I try not just to shut it down because it looks different. Well, things will. I mean, this is a, 4-story construction. It's a different kind of type of the mixed use in an area that hasn't received this kind of attention before. And so I'm reluctant to impose very strict ideas of subjective, this is what air is, because what can air be,
Well, if I may,
Yes,
not
please.
to respond to that, but maybe add some, not emphasis, but I also look upon West Main Street as being a transition that goes into the Devens area.
Absolutely,
This is not out of place inside Devens.
right.
Okay, we don't control Devens, but we also are aware that Devens is adding 8,000 to 10,000 jobs. They're putting in millions of square feet of new space in there. So it seems to fit. But again, that's my initial, I read 384 feet. That's a football field plus a couple of extra end zones. It's a lot of feet, it's a lot.
Yes, the same like this,
So-
the Page Moore block built
Yeah,
in
exactly.
1873, yes, in our downtown.
So, but I'm not, there's nothing here that says to me run away
Yeah, me too.
at this point. Can I ask one other question?
Sure, and then I
You
ask.
provided a
Nathan to
copy
speak.
of section 10.
I'm sorry?
Did you provide us a copy of section 10 of the form-based code?
10.5.
Uh,
Did you provide that to us?
yeah,
Okay, this has nothing to do with it, but there's a typo.
Plus a lot of them.
well, that might,
There's a bunch of them.
Okay, we'll talk about it later.
I wasn't sure if this was the post.
That's okay,
correction typo.
I'll look into it and see, because if we're gonna go and have form-based code change.
It's 10.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't wanna lose trail of thought, but I found a couple typos in this, so we'll make sure the official copy is corrected.
Nathan, did you have something you wanted to say?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did
Thank
you get your interjection?
I'll just make a comment, right, Mr. Chairman, when you was having the dialogue about, right, that we don't want to, this has nothing to do with fashion.
Right.
It has nothing, as I think we said last time, we don't dictate architectural style. And I agree with you, Jonathan, that's up to culture and architects, and that we don't dictate architectural style. But we have a form-based code now that prescriptively requires a functional form of building mass and how they
Understood.
relate to the street and all. And I'll just say, in terms of saying we don't want to be designing these things,
Correct.
I'll just make this observation.
And if I may.
Well, let Alan
Sorry.
finish and I'll get back to you,
Yeah,
Jeff.
yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff, Alan.
If the people of Ayer and you as their, if we don't determine what the private developers will themselves, they don't know any better than us, and they will put out whatever product. They don't determine what is appropriate for Ayer. The people of Ayer determine what is appropriate for Ayer. That's why form-based codes were created, because of this peculiar language and use-based zoning. It shall be in harmony with. You're right. It means
What does that mean?
no one knows exactly what it means. I could stand up and make a case, but we have a form laid out now. And I know we get hung up on this thing, it shall be in harmony with its surroundings, and we think, well, what's right there on the street within a few hundred feet of it? No, you have to think town-wide of the best that traditional architecture that really only really exists in the downtown, what's left of it. We've lost so much of it. So you're right, but this is why we're designing new places that function in a more traditional way that was multimodal. So I'll just make that observation that if we don't determine what's that, the private sectors will gladly do it for us. And that's when we get into weeks and weeks of parlay and meetings back. No, that isn't right. Go, well, what do you want? Well, I don't know. Go do it again and bring it back.
Yeah.
They really, probably just want to know, if you be clear what you want up front, then we'll make a decision whether we're doing that or not. And we're simply trying to save time and money and deliver, what the people of this town expect us to deliver in terms of housing and development. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Jeff, you had something to say?
I was gonna say that the marketplace is gonna determine what the building looks like, because otherwise they won't be able to sell the residential units.
And that's what it comes down to.
Certainly. It
Yeah,
has to
that's
be
all.
appealing, certainly.
Exactly,
Yes.
that's all.
Quite right, yes.
Mr. Chair.
Please, sir.
So starting in the clouds, my preference is not to have complicated bylaws. I do like a clear number and a short paragraph. That would be my that would be ideologically my preference. So, but I am I am at odds with myself on this because there's potentially a room to make it not the intent to make it complicated to drive development away, but just what another angle of what you just said, Alan, is that if it's clear, like in our OSRD, I think it's pretty clear that attracts development, and so that's where I want to start. I want to keep that in my in focus. That I'm not interested in complicating our bylaws.
I agree, and I think just one little comment. I will observe that one of the things that OSRD has in common with the form-based code is they're both oriented around providing maximum value to the town, both of them. And they're both consistent, even though they address different kinds of issues. There's a consistency in that thinking. I think is in line with what you're saying. We're not trying to detail everything, but we are trying to set up a context in which we can get land use of the highest and best value for the citizens of the town.
And that's what I'd like to see an example of or see demonstrated, because we have not been here yet. In this board, in this town, we have not done a form-based project. There were examples, Alan, when you proposed here for downtown and for West Air Village that gave us a vision. It was very helpful, but we haven't yet seen concretely what it's going to look like. I do want to.
What's held back the projects in the form-based code districts? Or the parking regulations?
Yes,
that's why we haven't seen.
That's what
what we're trying to break through with this.
And
Now-
we've also shown discretion on parking. The first form-based code that was approved here in
Yes,
downtown, the downtown.
quite right.
Kansas.
Yes. So, because the opposite side of that argument, Alan, is that if we have all this discretion and it's right there in our bylaws, then why aren't developers just saying, like the one who came for the first one we had, let's actually, when Judge Gardner was here, he's like, I just need 3 of you to agree on.
You have the authority
this,
right now.
on this proposal. So why aren't developers taking that, applicants taking that initiative to shoot the moon with us? And so this is where the dilemma is, that sometimes because of a lack of clarity or knowing what they're going to get, and not having to sit through and meeting after meeting give extension, that's at least I hope I'm communicating. I have a real dilemma here, right?
Yeah.
I want there to be. I get all the points about discretion, and I appreciate that, but I think that also, because of all that discretion, that can also be a hindrance to development. Do you follow?
I do, and that's why I thought the other is to simply amend the code so by right. That's what this is, so by right, and we just simplified it more so we don't have to go in and do that. So actually, there are 2 avenues now. We are creating more options for how can we deliver. You can by right, by doing this, and then you have that discretionary authority to go even further. I mean,
But are these proposals moving us towards maximizing value, again, a vague word, value to the town?
yes, and if you notice, I did put up this visual on the screen. Get into this thing of 300 and some, but there's the lot pattern out there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And when developers, they go, oh, okay. And they realize it's all these very peculiar cut up pieces, and that's why if we could just say, yes, by right, the maximum lot width, you know, is the 380 some odd, you know, then they, you know, they could actually make it go out here doing it, but the way it is now like this, it's just broken up in a very peculiar way out there. And it's gonna be hard for anyone to say, I think I can develop in that little thing right there. And so, yeah, it's just the nature of the location is very difficult because of the way the lots have been laid out historically out there.
I think your point about the lot arrangement is more on the frontage. You're addressing the lot arrangement. Are you addressing the lot arrangement
The lot
by the
width.
frontage, change the frontage requirement?
The width, the maximum
Yeah. Okay.
width.
So I kind of want to stay on the parking.
Yes.
I do want to address all three of these
Yep.
for sure. The parking, the lot width, and the height.
Yes.
Let me just give the first positive comment, which is this proposal. I read this proposal as motivating applicants to build multi-bedrooms, right? Applicants who come to us today build single bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Single bedrooms, is my understanding, are more profitable than multis. The dollar per bedroom
Certainly
is
can be.
better on a single. And everywhere we've seen so far, we saw the 17 bedroom on Main Street. The fire station was going to be all single bedroom.
Yes.
There wasn't, and then we had this state initiative to put multis in and around our transportation hub.
Yes.
So what motivates multis? I think, you know, not having this scale up with the bedroom says that, hey, developer, hey, applicant, as you put more multis in, you get a better ratio as far as they're interested to have fewer parking spots. So I do like the way that's going. But I would just, I think just putting out a very, you know, a simple, I want to encourage the applicant to say, like Judge Gardner, to say, it would actually be better. Here's a reason why it'd be better for me to go down to half a parking spot per bedroom, and make the case to us. And I want to encourage that.
And that's where you could put into use the section right under 9.1.10, item 3, which is the parking management plan. If they can show, really demonstrate. We have alternative ways of multimodal here. If you can really prove that developer and show that, we may grant you that reduction. But really do you and show us you have a unified plan, how people have other alternative choices.
I don't disagree with you, Alan, that there is a legal way for a developer to come to us with an alternate plan. I'm just, the evidence is that's been in the law since form-based code went in, and developers haven't come. You know, we've had the fire station has come, the old fire station plan, but it sounds like that applicants are walking away as soon as they read this, and they haven't read, or they don't get section 9. So I'm actually advocating for all the points you brought up, but I want to drive applicants, I want to really encourage them to say, okay, the board has this discretion, here's my spreadsheet on why this is going to bring even more value to the town to drop the parking spaces way down.
And I'll tell you, you gave me a very good task at the last meeting. You said, Alan, go out and do a deeper dive on, you know, incentive-based things or just a bigger, and I'll tell you, I found something, I'm going to forward it to all of you because just reading it today, it changed my life, and I've been doing this for 32 years. Here is from, and I love, the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission is, oh my goodness, Yeah, go on their site, it's
They're the
amazing.
gold standard.
July 25th, here's their transportation demand management case studies and regulations. I didn't know all this existed in the Commonwealth. This is amazing. And it gets into, I didn't know there was a Massachusetts rideshare regulation, which there is for large corporates and employers, like Bristol Myers Squibb, all the big companies up on Devon's. They're actually required, once you have more than 250 employees, you're required to come up with a transportation management, that there are alternative ways. In other words, they want to eliminate single occupancy cars. They're saying this is no good for ours. It is. They're saying if you're a large company, you have to submit a plan showing carpooling, shuttle buses, car sharing. What if you're a big company? I thought, wow, I did not know that. And then you get in here. They give fantastic case studies from countless Massachusetts communities. Mitigation funds you talked about. Developers saying if you don't do it, you're going to contribute then to Ayer's traffic, management mitigation fund, where we're going to fund alternative means.
Can I just want to bring this back, the conversation back to
So
form-based
this-
codes, Alan?
Yes,
Yeah, I
so
really
there
wanna-
are excellent examples in the state to do the type of part, and for developers.
Okay, great. Thank you,
Okay.
Alan. So my question is to Kali, ultimately, we're going to be asked to make a recommendation. And I guess the way I should have phrased my earlier question, is there anything, what's standing in the way of that for you? If there is anything, what are the issues? Yes?
Nothing is standing in the way of this. I just wanted to, I think where we should end up at the end of this discussion is whether the board wants to schedule public hearings in September for this, because that's the only chance we have to make the October town meeting. So ideally, if we were meeting on September 13th, we would have adequate time to get the notice in the paper for the 13th. We may have to go to the second meeting in September because we're meeting on the 8th.
We're meeting on the 8th, so it might be the
Because
second.
as Heather knows, the papers have a long lead time for ads, for the public notices. So I'm not sure we could make the 8th, but at the very least, the board tonight should make a decision to go or no go with the zoning amendments as proposed by Alan, so that we can write up the public hearing notice and get it to the.
You need that tonight or for the public hearing?
No, we would just need a motion to put it on a public hearing.
Oh, we just need a motion to put it on a public hearing?
Yeah, we don't have to
Oh, okay,
decide
yeah, great.
on everything, but,
Yeah, let's
it
do
should
it.
be a decide, no decide, are we doing a public hearing on this? 'Cause,
Opinions?
I haven't had a chance to make any comments.
Okay, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just
I
wanted
didn't
to-
realize you wanted to make one.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to provide the end point, so we have a goal.
Okay, so, yes, we have a goal. Ken, what's up?
Okay, so
I got my pen ready.
I would caution Alan, as I have many times in the past, to look even more closely at the rest of the form-based code and make any other amendments or changes that you need to make on the West Main Street section. For instance, the parking, I think, is still identified with the wrong number, for the tables, things like, just look at the tables.
Yes, we have to correct those section
Look at
numbers,
the-
which we're
look
going
at
to
the
do in
whole thing.
Yeah, we
springtime.
could,
If and when,
that
yes.
could all be in the same
Certainly.
notice.
So we clarify.
That's administrative, sure, cleanup,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, looking at the map and the transects, for the area, in essence, what you're saying to us is that you would prefer that both transects, 5.1 and 5.1, I guess it's 5,
Yep.
become all 4 stories, the entire place.
Correct,
So you're drawing at of the area, which now is broken off into 2.
correct.
We had a center village core and we had a village street. You're now saying the entire thing is basically going to be T6.
No, there are still differences beyond just the building height maximums.
Okay. But in essence, the building height
Frontage
maximum-
occupation in T.5 will remain at 60%, where in T5 it's 75%.
Okay.
The occupation of the building on the front.
The footprint.
You want more intense in that center T5 and less, so we keep it that. It's the building heights are out, well, okay, I won't go,
Okay,
I will
so
not make speculations
in
about
essence,
what I will think, but
So
yes.
in your mind, what we're saying then is
Yes,
that We have a small section in downtown that's T6, that's 4 stories.
Correct.
But we're gonna take the entire West Main Street Village section and make it 4 stories.
Yes, the reason.
Rather than just upping, let's say, the village core
Yeah.
to, 6 or something like that. You want the entire thing's 4 stories.
Yes, and the reason, if it was Euclidean use-based zoning, this is a problem, you'd say, oh, well, it's all the same. You know, the code, it all is applicable to every place the same. This is why we do form-based codes. The form-based code that we designed for downtown Ayer and Park Street is designed for a very strikingly different place than is West Main Street. Yes, there's a huge difference why you would keep the building in the downtown, whereas you can have more flexibility in West Air Village, because it's completely going to be redeveloped. It's not your downtown fabric with your downtown buildings and lot. They're two very different places, so it's two separate codes. That's why we do form-based codes and don't do this monolithic use-based zoning for, oh, everything is the same everywhere. No, it isn't.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're basically putting words in my mouth.
Oh,
And the reason I'm
okay.
gonna say that is because that's the reason I voted for the code in the first place.
Yes.
I wanted it to be 2 distinct places. I wanted
Yes.
it to be different.
Yes,
I like the fact that it was set up that way on West Main Street.
yes,
And I think this is a really large change that you're asking us to agree with.
yes, with the building height.
So it does flip the whole coin from a village environment to me to a really dense, not a village environment anymore. So
At 4 stories.
at 4 stories. It's just,
Okay.
to me, it's gonna be a big change, and I'm not so sure how far you're gonna get with it, but, so that would be a general comment there, but
And is it the 4 stories that you,
it's the whole thing, the 360, 384, the 4 stories,
all right,
the whole, I believe if you were gonna, if you told me that there was not a building out there right now,
Yeah.
the whole place was stripped,
Yeah.
I'd strip it right down, take every building down,
yeah,
and this is what I wanted to build,
yes.
I'd go for it. But you're asking us to put a 4-story building up to someone who's got a restaurant right next door to it,
Yeah.
Potentially. That's gonna
Or
be a
sto-
big,
or a storage area.
It's a mind-boggling change of look.
From 3
I
stories
agree
to
with the
4
whole-
stories?
If I could from a 1-story restaurant to a 4-story apartment within 30 feet of the thing. I mean, you're talking about shading, there's a million things that could go on, but
What restaurant are you referring to specific? We can get specific. That's what the whole point of this, is this place.
What's
Let's
the-
get specific.
what's the name of the garage?
Karen's.
Karen's Kitchen. Karen's Kitchen.
Yes.
It's like a small, small ranch type place there.
Do you, so our goal in doing what we're doing out on West Main
So what
Street.
you're asking, what you're anticipating
could I
is that
finish my-
Karen's Kitchen is gonna turn into a 4-story building in the future, or they're gonna redevelop the entire strip. I think that's what.
The whole point why we launched this, and what has been talked about for years in this town of transforming this gateway corridor,
Yeah,
is just that. We're designing it because we've all acknowledged 1-story single-use buildings is an incredible waste of very valuable land. We're doing this so that in the future, there will not be 1-story buildings out there because it's a waste of land.
right, but
So if we don't do this, Ken, what else? Well, wait, I know you're laughing
I'm not
out, and I know
laughing,
we
I'm
like
saying
doing
we
this
did
with
it
each other,
already.
but
I think we did it.
what, under Euclidean existing zoning we had all these years, what did it deliver for the town? We only have to go out there and look today. Nothing will happen.
But what I'm getting at is
Mr.
that-
Chair, excuse me,
Hold on.
if I may. I think it's a
Chair
great
acknowledges
opportunity,
Jeff.
if I may, it might be a great opportunity to have an offline conversation to try and convince each other
Yeah,
of
okay.
your point.
All right.
Number one. Number two, I'm gonna lay out just one thought. West Main Street was put in before we had any zoning at all, so that is not a fault of the Euclidean zoning we've had since the 60s.
Exactly, yeah. No zoning back then. Okay, so that was, I'm concerned with the 4 stories. I think we have a good code out there now.
Okay.
I'm not sure how we can, get more developers interested in the town. I'll never know that answer. Just a final thought on the parking deal, which is 9.1.2. I would recommend to Alan that he propose that the entire paragraph be changed. The simple reason that I would change the entire paragraph is that I think you would have a problem saying we're going to allow this parking improvement, less parking in West Main Street, and keep it for downtown. I'd change the whole thing.
I think there's an argument against spot zoning there also. I agree
I'll
with you.
just put
Mr.
this- If
Diskin,
we
yeah.
want to change that and make a good statement that we think it'll change, let's change it for everything.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to, this is not spot zoning. Please don't refer to what I'm doing as spot zoning.
Yeah.
Please, Mr.
Okay.
Tillotson,
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
engage in spot zoning.
We got it.
Form-based code is not spot zoning.
I'm talking about this paragraph.
We're talking about
I
paragraph
understand
9,
that.
which
Yes.
is in our general bylaws.
Yes?
I'm
yeah.
just thinking it's a good idea for the planning board to consider making a change for the whole town. That's
Right.
my thing.
Well, that's, sure.
But would that inhibit us from voting on this now, on this particular, I mean, is that something we have to do at once, and
No,
the
we
part of
won't.
Town, can we work on this, and then, as it's tabled as a consideration for the future, that we could consider
No,
parking?
we should vote for the hearing, no matter what.
What's it?
Let's do the hearing, vote for the
I'd like to
hearing.
move that we hold a hearing.
Yeah,
You making a
I'd
motion?
like to make a motion to hold a hearing
Second.
at our next
I'll second.
planning board meeting, which I believe is September.
Well, it's the only issue might be, there might not be time for the paper's notice to legally have the required number of days from the notice to the hearing. There's all these legal things, and I will try for the 8th. but
Okay.
it's,
No, you
not
need
guaranteed,
two-
it may have to be
it has
the
to be 2
second
weeks
meeting in
publication.
September.
So I'm
Yeah,
gonna make a motion that we hold a hearing at the next available
The next available.
planning board meeting, given the,
Right, so
The-
hearing as Alan has proposed, and, you know, that's what a hearing is for,
Mhm.
to hear all sides,
Right, but-
disagreements.
It's been seconded, right?
No, it hasn't yet.
so I
Second.
so just to be clear, propose that we hold a hearing for the changes in the West Main Street Village, form-based code at the next planning board meeting that's in compliance with getting an announcement in the paper.
Excellent. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Sorry,
Discussion?
discussion. Sorry.
This is the important part.
Well, we've been discussing for the last
No,
half
the
hour, but
important
yes.
part
I
now
think
is the
we got-
language of the advertisement.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be responsible for looking at the advertisement?
Well,
and
usually
agreeing on the
I am,
language?
but I could, you know, if other planning board members would like to have a approving eye on what I write, please.
No, what I'm thinking is, if the motion was to consider the form-based code changes, that's only the form-based code changes. It doesn't include the parking change.
Oh,
No, it includes,
well,
No,
I
you
think
said
he's,
the motion was.
And I would
Oh, I see what
I would
you're saying.
accept a friendly amendment from Mr. Diskin to also include a suggested change in the parking regulation of 9.1.2.
thank you.
Is that what you're asking, Mr. Diskin?
No, I wasn't gonna do that.
Okay, I'll defer to you.
What I was gonna do was do it in 2 parts, just the
Okay.
way it came. I think
Okay.
it's right to do the form-based code first
Okay.
in one ad. And I think the
Okay.
second should be whether the planning board wants to go forward with a change on section 9.12 and do it for the whole town. And then that would be another ad.
yeah,
Another hearing.
boy,
I don't think you can
To
put the
reduce-
two, I don't think the form-based code segues into the parking in the same hearing. I think the
Right.
form-based code
Yeah.
should be one hearing, and then the parking change should be another hearing. That's my thought, I could be wrong.
do you really want to propose a public hearing to change parking town-wide?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
To me, it seems like a big change.
Well, this is a
And,
big change. We're changing it for,
Well, I know, but to change parking town-wide for
it's
all
only
sorts of
multifamily.
houses.
It's multifamily
I
dwellings.
think it's an interest. I think there's.
If you want, you know,
I'm throwing it
well,
out
we
there.
could, I'm just thinking it's a big change,
I'm
but
throwing it out there.
we could have a public hearing.
So, Mark, what's your hesitancy? What do you anticipate as
Well,
being
because
difficult?
there's a lot to think about
Yeah, there
here.
is.
That's all.
Well, what,
Whereas the form-based code amendments are, you know, to that geographic area, the West Main Street Village. And, you know, just as we changed for the Main Street, Park Street form-based code, we went down to 1 space per unit just in that area. I think going town-wide might be a little,
Just for that lot.
I don't know. Well,
Right.
maybe it makes sense, because I know the 40B is proposing 1 space per unit there, right? I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So maybe it does, I don't, I just think anything that applies town-wide, a red flag goes up with me, because I think, you know, what are we not thinking about? You know, what could be different for one district that we're not thinking about, that's all.
Okay. I'll back off that.
I will note, though, that even though Mr. Diskin's proposal seems abrupt, the truth is, we've been talking about parking since the time I started here. That's 4 years.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yes.
parking has come up so many times. I mean, it might be that maybe now's the time.
And
Could be.
if I may, Mr. Chair.
Please.
I think we've reached a point in our relationship with automobiles and traffic and how we work that requiring parking spaces has become more of a hindrance than a help in a lot of different and a lot of different solutions people are coming up with in this town, in all around us. You'll see it over and over and over again. You need to have 35 spaces for your restaurant. You need to have 62 spaces for your 40-unit apartment building. That's a cost prohibitive, and to me, not the best use of land.
But we are making a
Oh, I
residential,
agree.
this is only a residential.
So it's a multifamily.
It's for
Yeah.
multifamily.
Multifamily.
So, where do we stand? Do we like this proposal of segregating them into two separate hearings,
I
two
would break it
separate?
into two. I would recommend, because I don't want to lose form-based code on a parking decision. I think they can stand on their own
Right.
merit and be discussed on their own merit.
There would be two separate articles if we have two, if we break up the hearing into two parts like that.
There would be two articles before the
Two
town
warrant
meeting.
articles, so if one goes down, the other has a chance, right?
Well,
Whereas if they're together, it's all or nothing.
Mr. Chairman.
yes, please.
All right.
Clarification, Mark and Alan. We now currently have a separate requirement that's less than for the downtown, for the form-based code downtown district.
T6,
G6
Just for
only.
the T6.
around the
That's
commuter
right,
rail
T6.
station, T6,
T6 only.
which is not a single lot, which is a number of lots.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Don't do spot zoning.
Right, but if we, as a planning board,
Mhm.
thought that we could, first of all, this is only for multifamily projects. We don't even have a multifamily project before us at the moment. We have a 40B project before us, but it's a multifamily, but they pass all the stuff
But that's
anyway.
a
They
different board.
overcome zoning, the 40B, so.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just feel when I read the additional sentence against the first part, that I feel that there's something that's different here, that why aren't we doing it in this part of town and the rest of town? So to me, it's more consolidated if we have the one change, rather than one paragraph that talks about two different things and separates form-based, the West Main Street from everything else. I just feel multifamily in general is multifamily. no matter
So
where it
that'll
is.
simplify things greatly. Multifamily dwelling, minimum one space per unit regardless of the number of bedrooms, period.
I want to acknowledge Nathan.
I agree with this direction, and I think we should look into the whole town for multifamily residential. I think the time has come. On this motion, the discussion of the motion, it sounds like there's disagreement, and this isn't a slam dunk to get approved or recommendation from the board yet. There's questions out there, so I just want to confirm, because right now I don't support this.
The motion is before us, can I clarify it, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah,
Yeah, but the motion is just for the public hearing, it's not for
Yeah.
the public hearing. Right.
Yeah.
Just
To
so
have
we can
the
further
public
discussion.
hearing is that it is, there is there's an argument. This is going to have to be an argument to make a winning case, because I for one, I'd like to get more out of this change than what's being proposed.
And which, what, the form-based code part or the parking part?
All of that. Form-based code. I mean, because if we change multis for the whole town, then that covers the form-based code, right? So I just
Yeah.
I
The
see
parking part, yes.
the parking part, and then the stories and the frontage is separate. But I would like to see the value to the town of why these are a benefit. I'd like to see the examples or the math or be convinced that this is sufficient to get the value we want.
We have hearings to consider that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
So I'm
the
just
hearing's
saying,
for.
and I just want to clarify that the hearing doesn't mean that we are all, if voting to approve of the hearing doesn't mean I approve yet.
Understood.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's absolutely true. So do we need a modification to the original motion?
Enough water's gone over the dam, why don't we try and unmuddy it with this? I'd like to propose that we hold a hearing at the next available meeting of the planning board that is in compliance with the advertising needs of the printed newspaper to discuss the changes to the West
West Air Village.
West
Form-based
Air
code.
Village form-based code. That's what got me confused, is West Air Village Maine, there's a,
Yeah.
it's referred to different ways. So that would be the motion for the hearing, for the changing of the form-based code.
And you want a separate motion for
I would prefer a separate motion for the parking.
Is there a second to that motion for the form-based code as articulated by Jeff?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Can I have a motion?
I would
for the-
move.
Thank you.
That we hold a hearing at the next available planning board meeting in compliance with the publishing deadlines of the local newspaper to handle changes to section 9.1.2 parking for multifamilies for the town of Ayer.
Do I have a second?
I'll make a friendly amendment.
Please.
It's 9.1.2.2,
Thank you. I was looking at you the whole time.
I believe.
Yes.
2, right? For paragraph 2.
Yeah, paragraph 2, yep.
Yep.
Thank you. I just didn't have it in front of me.
Second? Seconded?
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none? Oh, good, yes, discussion.
Just one final clarification. This hearing is basically going to be for a townwide change to multifamily dwelling parking requirements. That's just, we all understand that.
Okay, townwide.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so I will investigate when we can have that hearing and
Fantastic.
as soon as possible.
So I believe I need a motion to open.
Yes,
the-
Manny?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a move that we continue the public meetings for the Stratton Hill preliminary subdivision plan, 35 lots off of Wright Road.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it's unanimous. The discussion is continued. Where are we, Mark? Stratton Hill?
Oh, with Stratton Hill. Yes, we finalized the contract with Niche. They're very pleased. I have all the signatures on that. It's also my understanding that.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. You
Yes.
finalized the contract to do what with whom?
Okay. The town has finalized the contract to have Niche Engineering serve as our peer review traffic consultant
Thank you.
to oversee the traffic study that was done by Vanessa Associates for the applicant. It's also my understanding that Niche has coordinated new traffic counts that will be done this week, actually, this Thursday and Saturday, at the intersections of
Want to
concern.
move up, you guys, or what?
Yeah, at the intersections of concern that were listed in the RFP. So I would hope that by our September 8th meeting, we will have the results of those counts and be able to compare those counts to the counts that were done by Vanessa after the closing of the beach. So what these new counts will afford us is a check on the counts that were done to see how it differs with, in beach season versus out of season.
And I believe an important thing that happened with the subcommittee is our assurance that they would be able to do the counts before the beach season's over, because otherwise it defeats the purpose of the
Right,
review. Right?
correct. And as far as I know, everything is on for them, so.
Yeah, I believe I saw an email with dates of when they're gonna do the counts. Do you happen to have that with you, Mark?
Yes, yep, this Thursday, August 25th, and Saturday, the 27th, this week.
What time of day do you happen to call?
Well, I think it would be whatever the AM peak hour is, and then noon, and then PM peak.
Okay.
and Saturday. The hours probably would be similar to the hours listed in the finesse study.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that
you know,
information-
standard morning, you know, it's usually 7 to 9, and then,
Well, we also wanted to capture at the request of the residents who helped put together the RFP for the traffic management study,
yeah,
there was a specific concern that counts take place when the beach is being used. And I think we shared with the a consultant the hours of the beach. I think it's noon to 8. I've forgotten exactly off the top of my head. We also discussed peak travel times, morning and afternoon peak travel for typical go and come from work type stuff. We also discussed the travel that is generated by the transfer station that goes down Calvin Street. We also discussed with them something, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Another point that we discussed with them is a concept called heat maps. Heat maps are generated by non-vehicular traffic, runners, cyclists, walkers, baby strollers, and things like that. People who use Fitbits and stuff like that track their progress. We now have that information, and we shared those heat maps with the engineer so that they would understand that we're truly random people who share their information. So he saw that. So he's beginning to look at that also. So it's not just cars turning left, cars turning right. We also had a discussion with him because the original plan didn't recognize that there was infrastructure there for non-vehicular traffic, as in no sidewalks, no bicycling lanes. We now have sidewalks and cycling lanes. So we've asked him to expand the counts to include not just vehicular work. And that was work that was done through residents on Wachusett Ave East. They really dug in on that a while ago. So I just kind of wanted to say that. There's not a lot of people here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to compliment the chair. He pushed hard to make sure that Van Ness would be able to get this work done. No, you did. We got to a point where it's early August. We got to get this done before September. And they were able to push and get it done. So, sorry, Mr. Chair, but sometimes you got to.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments about the traffic study?
I just want to make it clear that there was we had a separate small group committee that kept that discussion going. So
Right,
that's
yes.
what led up to so we were able to pull this off in the last couple of weeks by
Right.
having a separate meeting. It was a meeting that was posted, I believe, but
yeah, it was a scope refinement,
a
basically.
scope refinement
Yeah.
meeting that we talked about having, and we did have that meeting.
Yeah.
And the reason the scope refinement meeting was done offline was simply because of the timetable of our meetings, that we absolutely had to get this work done, the count's done in time, before the beach closes, and we couldn't base that on just our continued deliberation. We only meet every 2 weeks, so that's why we had the subcommittee work out this, refine the scope.
I thought it would be worthwhile just clarifying that.
It is,
Oh, yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Ken. Is there anything else in Stratton Hill?
No, I think we just continue to the next meeting.
Any comments? I'm sorry.
Yes, no, I'm going to do that in a second. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure. Any further comments from the board first? Great. Any comments from the public on this issue of the traffic with the Stratton Hill?
Just one question, what if the weather is inclement, they do the study? Just
What if the
it
weather?
doesn't
Yeah, we'll
provide
see.
the same type of,
I
Supposed to
looked-
be good.
The irony would be,
The
after
irony
all
would
this, if
be-
it started to rain
I know.
after all this time,
I know.
when we're about to do a traffic count, I will shoot
Extensive
myself.
look good. In fact, Saturday looks like a beach day.
Yeah, if I may,
Big time.
a Thursday and a
And
Saturday,
nice and sunny.
hopefully we'll separate it enough. And Saturday won't pick up on to and from work traffic, but it should pick up on beach use. Whereas Thursday is probably going to be, traffic's pretty steady for to and from work typically. We do a few more errands on weekends, so that would be the bump on the weekends, I'd imagine, for car counts and stuff. But it's a really good question, and thank you. There's risk in everything here.
So, at this point, do we need a motion? We need a motion to continue?
Yeah, just to continue the.
Please.
the
Just
public
one more
hearing.
clarification on the peer review that's working for the planning board. When you finish with the scope updates and whatnot, did their proposal financially change?
No,
Yeah,
it did
isn't that
not.
amazing?
Yeah, it stayed
Okay.
the same. I was kind of surprised, actually.
So for the
Well,
public,
but there, it's understood that there may be contingencies where if there's extra work or it takes longer to do something, there could be a few thousand added.
okay.
but it's my understanding the proponent is okay with that.
Oh, yes, yeah.
His desire to write a check last
I
time
know,
he was
he
here.
was like ready to write a check for.
I just wanted to clarify to myself that there was no change in the price.
Correct.
So we're
Correct.
still
From what
good.
we originally saw, no change, yeah.
Nathan, I'm sorry.
I was wondering also if Mark could give us an update on the conservation analysis timeline.
Yeah, they're still working on it. I believe well, and Heather is right here, but I think the Concom will be receiving the report. Is it time for September 8th or is it?
Would you like me to?
Yeah.
Yeah, Heather, do you mind? Can you join us? And
She
just
will
let-
know. She will know more than
I
I.
can do that if you want.
Yes, yes.
And I can't speak for the board because it just, so, just so you all know, our consultant submitted his report this afternoon at 2:30. He's not 100% sure he's gonna make our meeting on Thursday. It is,
This Thursday.
yes, it is 40 some odd pages, if not longer. So the fact that the board will even get a chance to dissect all that before the meeting is, I'm not hopefully hopeful on that. Also with you meeting on the same night as my next meeting after the fact, there's no way I can attend both
Of
either,
course.
or the commission. So we wouldn't be prepared to present anything to you to your second meeting anyway.
Second meeting in September.
September, correct.
Or in time for. So that means, the planning board would get it in advance. And
Yes,
so
you'd get it in
to be
advance
able-
and there'd be a representative, either
Right.
myself and or a member
Right,
of the
and to
conservation.
digest
So
it.
we're
So
talking-
I would anticipate that, if the planning board has the report and the Conservation Commission's recommendation to the planning board, the planning board should be able to fully act on the preliminary plan at the September 27th meeting.
Okay.
I would think so, because we would have all the pieces in
Is
play.
it, I mean, you'll have it before the meeting,
I
but
mean, yeah.
I don't know how you guys want to proceed with that. I would assume that you'd want
Right.
someone from the
So
Conservation Commission
the
to
board
see
would
your
need to
report, but.
deliberate, but
Okay.
Okay.
we'll have all the pieces in hand by then.
Thank you, Heather.
So in summary, we may be in a position to act on the preliminary by September 27th.
On the 27th.
That's what I would
Still
hope
is on
we could
track.
do, yes.
Nick, did we get a firm commitment from the applicant to a date
Extension?
positive?
Yes, he gave us a letter extension until September 30th.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Do we need to take an action on that, accept the letter or anything?
Oh, no?
I'd like to move
Yeah.
to accept the letter from the applicant, to accept an extension until the 30th of September.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Covered.
Accept. Thanks
Just
for
for clarification, in what form does that notification take? Is it email or does he actually send you a letter?
He sent me a physical letter.
Okay.
Yes, and I can.
For the record, we should have it in the file.
I could scan, it's in the file.
Okay.
It was just so,
That's good
it was like two
enough.
two sentences.
Okay.
I can copy it for everybody if you want.
No, I'm
It did
good
say
with it.
September 30th.
It was a letter on his letterhead or whatever.
It's, yep, it's on letterhead, it's in the official file.
Motion for continuance?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
To continue to the September 8th meeting?
Yeah.
September 8th.
I'm sorry, continue to the next meeting. I accept that as a friendly amendment, yes.
Right.
Okay, good. All right, approved. It's all in favor. Continue the next meeting. Thank you. Town planner update.
Did you guys have any, did they have any more comments? I don't know if they
I
did.
thought that was it,
They
right?
said-
No other comments? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yep, all I have for updates tonight is one email that came across my in basket was Tanya will be having an open house soon.
Really?
I forgot the date, but I believe it's within a week or 2 or 3.
I'd like to know
I
about
will.
Is that
I will
open to the
find
general
it.
public?
Yes.
Wow.
That's a fascinating thing to do. Let's get that word out.
Yeah, please. I was
Yeah,
gonna say, could you let me know through the air
I'm
email?
gonna send it.
I definitely wanna know.
Tomorrow morning, I will send it to you.
Let's find somebody like Alan to put it up on the air Facebook
Exactly.
or something.
Okay,
Because Catania's got a great space and a
Yeah.
great company. A good neighbor.
yeah.
You haven't heard anything from Nasoya, have you, by any chance?
Oh, that's still, what happened with Nasoya is Nasoya as a company decided to go with a different architectural designing firm.
Really?
So it's gonna take that firm, I've been in touch, just on the phone with the new architect. They're gearing up to apply for us for site plan for the addition there, but it's gonna take probably a few weeks. Yeah, that was interesting how they dropped the existing architect fast, because we were having a Zoom meeting with them, and then the next day I find out they're no longer on the project. So interesting, but we don't question that. But
You have anything else?
we'll be hearing from them, relatively soon. I'll be
Good.
hearing with the big site plan.
And have you heard anything about Solar 2?
Not since we had our meeting with them. No, not yet. But we gave them until the end of August to get something to us.
And
Is it inappropriate for me to ask Heather to say anything, or is that wrong?
You've got to leave the room to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Did you want to refuse?
Yeah, I can give you guys an update on mine.
Do you mind, Heather, if you come in? 'Cause
No, I don't mind.
You want to share the
I've been
latest?
spending a lot of time on this. This is
Yes,
basically
that's
my
why I
one
invited you to
project.
come
My
up.
one project. So I've been going out on site about once a week, twice a week, depending on the weather. I went out today. I went out one day last week. I haven't seen anybody working in the last 2 weeks, but so they're coming to our meeting on Thursday. I did get draft revised plans today. They're giving me paper copies so I can review them to what we have approved plans, and I can make my draft list of items that have changed, that aren't on site, that I already have a draft of items that aren't constructed on site. I never realized that almost the entire site is in the buffer, so I have jurisdiction on almost the entire thing. So this is why I'm spending so much time on it. And there's multiple items that the conservation still has concerns over, as far as retaining walls not built, culvert not done correctly, tree box filters, but all these will hopefully get addressed or started on Thursday evening. But I did get draft plans, revised plans.
Thank you. I think the board appreciates knowing that. And I wanted them to hear it from you, so that's
Yeah,
great.
no,
That's good to know.
it had to come to but it's time. But I've been spending a lot of time on that project, so.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
And if I may, Mr.
Please,
Chair,
John.
if there's no resistance from the commission, I would like to take, if there are electronic plans that were submitted to you, the draft plans. Can I get
Oh,
a copy
you
of
could,
them?
yeah, they're submitted to me, they're public record, I
Yeah,
can send
exactly.
anybody
Could you
online.
would you mind forwarding me a copy?
Yeah, if you can read them, because it's GPR plan, so there's 75 things on one.
I understand that. I've
One item.
I got
Thankfully, there's color though on these, so it makes it a little bit easier. I don't have to
A lot.
draw,
I
I
got
don't
experience
have
with
to
Calvin's
color
work.
in myself.
and Kyle's work. No, I would just like to get a chance to take a look at it.
Yeah, I have
Those
a
I've poured
few
over, so.
questions, and it's
Yeah.
what we can do to do grades, because there's one grade on one sheet that just
Yeah.
does this, and they're proposing speed bumps, it looks like. I don't know, it's a bunch of stuff, but yeah, we did get revised plans today.
I'm also concerned with the site,
Yeah.
site distance on the road,
Yeah, like 4.
picture of the road and stuff like that, so if you.
Yeah, I asked to get them before the meeting, I got them to just before 4,
Yeah.
so. Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right, you're
Thank
welcome.
you, Mr. Chair.
Anything else in Solar 2 before we can invite Ken back? Ken? Excuse me a second. Mr. Diskin.
He's
Here he is.
came around the other way.
Anything else, Mark?
You know how one of my ongoing projects is the MBTA communities, multifamily zoning requirements?
Yes, exactly.
They just issued, I haven't studied them closely, but they just issued their final standards and guidance on this.
Oh, good.
Because they got a lot of feedback and a lot of grief from the towns.
I've heard.
So that I think they've toned down some of their requirements a little bit, but I saw that they toned them down a little bit. I'm not sure how it's going to affect the air so much. It seems like they were addressing the comments of towns like Harvard and Groton, that are MBTA adjacent, that do
Right.
not have a rail line. So they've reduced the requirements for those.
That makes
I think the
sense.
requirements for a town like Ayer that does have commuter rail have stayed the same. But I'm setting up a meeting with the Montechusett Regional Planning to go over that, because they're assisting us with the number crunching on that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm no longer the representative, and I was just wondering, I can't remember who we elected to as representative. Are you going to those? I mean,
Yes,
anything to report? Anything notable?
So, my first meeting was a executive session I'm wondering why I'm at
That's
an executive
interesting.
session.
Whoa.
It's okay. Well, I'm not going to talk about it, so there we
Yeah.
go. It wasn't about me. That's all I can say.
Wow.
And then the second half of the meeting, it was my first meeting with them. And to be honest with you, there was nothing that I want to report of note. The gentleman's name, who was the director? His name?
Greg?
I think, no,
Glenn.
Glenn.
Yeah, so basically it was a quick meeting because they were just tying up some things. And having it being my first meeting, not knowing what I was getting into when I got to it, it was over before I realized what was going on, to be honest with you.
I understand.
It's available online.
Okay.
But it was interesting to be in a meeting with a bunch of people who I know from a lot of different backgrounds.
There you go.
So I look forward to continuing to be involved with that, and I appreciate you guys throwing me into that bucket.
Into the lion's den.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll do the transportation ones, but they canceled the August.
Or a
meeting,
lion
so.
in a den of Daniels.
So
Mark,
that-
anything else in the town update?
That's it for now, for this
Okay.
meeting.
Excellent, thank you, Mark. It says meeting minutes July 12th and 26th, but I think it's just the 12th, right? that we
Yeah,
have
this
before?
is 12th, yeah.
We don't have the 26th, we got it.
Correct.
Okay, so that's kind of, so we do have the meeting minutes for July 12th. I think I made a few recommended edits. I'm hoping you all had a chance to, that came in the kit, right? I hope.
Move,
No?
approve. Okay.
No, I mean, my first question, did you all get a copy of the July 12th?
I never saw your
You
corrected
didn't?
one for
Move the
July
table,
12th.
move the table, the meetings until the next meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Move
let's
the
do
table
that.
to July 12th.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All right.
I'm sorry, discussion?
We don't have it. so-
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, Chair votes aye unanimous. We'll table it for the next, could you
Yeah.
just do me a favor, let's communicate together to make sure we're on top of these minutes,
Oh,
because
sure.
I'm a little,
Yeah.
I thought I reviewed them and sent them out to everyone, and then maybe I didn't, and I'm lost. But I just
Yeah,
wanna make sure I don't goof
usually
on
you're
this.
so fast. Heather sends them out within an hour. You send your.
So let's just,
Yeah, I didn't
you know,
see it
this,
this time.
so what do we
Really
have,
short.
this, that, and then the August. So let's just keep on top of this so we don't
Yeah.
fall further and further back, because it becomes
Right.
harder and harder as time goes on to remember what happened at the meeting.
Right.
Good. Thank you. Any old business, new business?
I have a little business.
And I have old/new, Mr. Dick. Air
Wait,
Affordable-
did you want to go first on because you said, okay.
So Air Affordable Housing Trust and the Air Affordable Housing Committee had a meeting last Wednesday. They're still talking about the local initiative housing project that's
Yeah.
going to be going in over on Fitchburg Road. The Zoning Board of Appeals meets on August 31st with NOAA, the proponent for the project. Nothing really to offer
Yeah.
us now. Just want to let you know what's going on with it. I will let Mr. Diskin know one thing though. I'm out of town on the 31st.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I messed up my schedule and we're away. So I'll talk to you about that offline, and I'll respond to Alicia about that offline also. I'm still willing to do the work I said I would do. I just not going to physically be available for the meeting.
The Affordable Housing Committee and the Affordable Housing Trust, I'm on the committee, Jeff's on the trust. Talked about our initiative by those two boards, committees, to endorse the project.
Mm-hmm.
And the endorsement was going to be fact-based on the fact that over the last 5 years, we have spent a lot of time changing bylaws. We added, the inclusionary zoning, we added accessory apartments. We talked about the master plan allowing, for more affordable housing in town. And as a town in general, that's what we are working towards as a goal. So it's just, I think the idea, Jeff can back me up on this, so change it. The idea was to present to the Board of Appeals as part of public comment the fact that the town, these committees endorsed this project because it falls within the work that we've been doing, to try to get to the stage. And we think this is an opportunity that we don't want to let go by. We may not see another opportunity like this in the near future.
So this issue of endorsement, is this something we should plan on putting on our agenda soon, or wait
No,
for
I'm
further
talking-
along?
This is
the same.
the purview of the committee
No,
and the trust.
Okay, I know it's in your purview, but did you want the planning board to say, yeah, we approve, that
Well,
or is that what
we
you're
didn't
looking
take
for?
it that far.
Oh, okay.
I'm
All
just
right, I'm
giving you
confused.
just
I
a-
believe eventually the ZBA will be looking for a more formal
Okay,
planning
all
board
right.
review of this.
But that's not
And,
what you're talking about right now.
But
Okay.
not yet, because I think the consultant is driving things right now, just getting all the steps in a row.
Yeah.
And they're hiring, also, yeah, I mean, they just put out their own RFP, and I believe there was one respondent, Green International, who's a big consulting firm, to assist the ZBA with the technical things.
Okay.
So they
Technical
chose that,
assistance.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But
And,
if I can just amplify,
Please.
not amplify, but reiterate what Mr. Diskin said, this is coming to the town as what's known as a friendly.
Yes.
They want to work with the town in
Right.
order to bring to us hundreds of units of affordable housing in perpetuity, and green space behind it and a bunch of other things, and some connection to another neighborhood that makes sense.
Yep.
So, the trust and the committee felt it was important that, as Mr. Diskin said, we lay out all the work that's been done to this point. And something just occurred to me, Ken, while Mark was talking about, I was going to ask about the MBTA because I knew it was coming up again, where we are with the transportation base.
Yeah.
That is probably there's probably a part of that that needs to be in that presentation also.
Yeah.
It's not a particularly long presentation, but this is what we worked on. This is what we've been doing. This is all the efforts we've been making in working inside a friendly 40B or what's called a local initiative. Is a lot more than they just decide to do it.
Yeah, enforce it.
Enforce it. And they're working with the Commonwealth, and things look like they're going to continue to move forward.
Wow. So, I just want to make a comment that I appreciate Jeff and Ken keeping us posted on the 40B because it's one of the most important things going on in our town, period. So it's critical, and I appreciate having the updates and encourage you to continue doing so. So thank you. Anything else?
I have something else.
Please, sir.
So, I am reading a book, which interestingly I got from Alan Manoy's office. And the book is called A Complete Book on Zoning or something along those lines by an attorney. And I saw it on his shelf forever, so one day I said, may as well borrow that book and read it, So as I was reading that book, and I would say I'm only a third of the way through the book, the gentleman who wrote it is an attorney who mostly represents developers and is writing it from that angle, is cautioning the readers of the book to be careful that they have all the permits in place that they need for a project, and he lists them from the local to the county to the state to the federal level. And interestingly enough, in his conversation, he says, whatever you do, be careful to not miss out if you need a NPDES permit. NPDES, which is the stormwater construction permit, basically. And construction, it's a permit that's required for pretty much, we know, work that's over 1 acre. So it dawned on me that all the projects that we have looked at, many of the projects we've looked at in the last 5 years or so, 6 years, in our decisions, and in decisions that are put out by the Conservation Commission, this there was SWIP, which is part of it, which is the stormwater prevention, or the NPDES of both.
Yeah.
On top of that, we have local stormwater regulations, which this board endorsed with Mr. Van Skelwick,
Yeah.
and it's all over that this NPDES permit is required. So I said to myself, and I wrote an email to Mark and to Dan Van Skelwick, I've never seen one of those permits. And I know that the planning board in their authority is the stormwater permitting authority in the town. That's part of our purview. That I believe we should be asking the applicants and the people who are doing construction in the town to show us the copy of those permits, and that we should put it in our files.
Yeah.
Would you look into that?
Yes.
And get back to us
Yes.
and understand, like, one way or another,
Yep.
either confirm or clarify?
Oh, they should have the NPDES permits.
Right.
Yeah, it's a matter of getting.
And if I
And the online portal was difficult to navigate, I found.
All right.
So, but you can also request, but if I may, and I'm not telling you how you do your job, but we get a critique of an applicant, maybe on that list, that checklist, the applicant comes as copy of NPDES. And then NPDES is issued with a number on it too, I believe. correct?
Excuse me?
And the NIPD's permit has a
Oh,
specific
yes,
number on it.
yeah,
So,
yes.
part of the permitting process, part of the protocol for the permitting process is we require that they submit the
Right.
NIPD's permit number. And if it's not available, when will they have it and by date?
Yeah.
I
So
like that.
I think that will just tighten, that might
I
just
like
tighten
that.
the circle for us.
Yeah.
But what I'm
Yeah.
concerned about is that I spoke to a third party about this, and the idea is that this is one of those things that it's easily forgotten, I guess is the way to describe it. Yet we emphasize how important it is in the approvals. So it's just one of those things, we should have a copy of it, and we should all just understand what it is.
Yeah.
you know?
Well, it's similar to an as-built, asking for,
Yeah.
at the
Well-
end of the process, we want to see that permit.
It
Now,
occurs
excuse
to
me
me-
for
Keep it
just a
on
second
file.
for clarification.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a permit that's required at the beginning of the project.
That's the
Oh,
point.
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
tricky thing.
We
Yeah,
are
exactly.
supposed, that is a part of the approval.
Right.
So
Right.
it's supposed to be,
Yeah, yeah,
that they
yeah.
should be holding it now.
Right.
And because, well, if you
Yeah.
go on the EPA website and look at what's in the requirement, I guess the application may not be as difficult as the requirements, but it certainly requires everything, depending on the complexity of the project, it can even require monitoring, and it can require reporting back.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
on top of, Concom and things like that.
Well, I'm curious if this is something we should also be looking for on the cover sheet of a set of
Yeah.
Oh,
plans.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we can add that to the checklist.
Well, you
Yeah.
understand that they've told us, we've heard this verbally,
Yes.
that they're gonna get it.
Yes.
But we just haven't seen it. So I'm just asking that the planning board.
Close
Well, I also, so my understanding, and this could be conjecture, but when Mr. Van Skelpen would do the stormwater calculations,
Right.
oftentimes he's working from plans and then information, and of course we can ask him, but I'm pretty sure, I bet you it's there somewhere, we just haven't been aware of it having to be here, is what I'm
That's
gonna
what
say.
I'm hoping for.
Because
Yeah,
our
yeah.
last superintendent, I know, was very,
Oh, yeah, he got them.
Mark was very conscious
Yeah.
of the NIPD's permits all the time.
Yeah, I'll follow up with Dan to actually get my hands on
Okay, so that's what I
Yeah.
have, thanks.
So I have to confess, I'm not feeling peak tonight, so I would appreciate if we could wrap up, if that's
Yeah.
okay with everybody. All right,
Motion to adjourn?
Seconded?
Second.
Good night, everybody. Thank
Ah.
you very